Dang. And that was just to start off the day. That was a start off Sunday. After that, it was all wild from there. I recently found out the Denver Broncos hired Packers OC Nathaniel Hackett to be their next head coach. But come on, kick the field goal, take the point. Win the game.
Oh, you have to.
See you all. Welcome to Ruffing the Pass, a show where I talk football, miscellaneous stuff, and mostly football. I'm your host, Sam Ruffing, and today I'll be discussing how we had one truly insane weekend of football of all kinds. From Croatia winning the third place game, to the Vikings' legendary comeback, the Bills and Dolphins' fantastic finish. Actually, I won't really be touching on that one. And Argentina's World Cup win. The Patriots' insane blunder. And the refs absolutely hosing the Washington team, which I will refuse to call the Commanders. But I'd like to start off talking about football, i.e. the beautiful game, the World Cup final, Argentina versus France, in what was a spectacular game. Down to the wire, drama, all sorts of drama. And honestly, I have seen 3 World Cup final matches, starting with Germany and Argentina, France and Croatia. But by far the best one was this one, which most people would agree upon. It was truly insane. It seemed early that the Argentinians were who, on paper, seemed like a better team. They're way more well-coached. Lionel Messi is unbelievable. They have a loaded roster. They took a lead early, 2-0 after a penalty kick and a goal. But then, late in the game, the Argentinian side made one heck of a truly inexcusable mistake, allowing Kylian Mbappe, to have a chance at a penalty kick, which he blasted into the back of the net, the left side, which would be a theme here, to give France a to cut the deficit to 1-2. Then, only like 90 seconds later, he scored again on an assist, tying the game up, which would remain scoreless, sending it in overtime, extra time, where no one would go score in the first extra time, the second extra time. Lionel Messi, the man, the myth, the legend, who I was rooting for to get his World Cup win at 36 years old. I was hoping for him to finally do it, finally break through, and he did so. He scored a goal on the French off an assist, and boy, that was a extremely just tight, and it was so intense. Like, the ball was blocked off the goal, he went back to him, then the guy, French player in the goal, tried to kick it out, but he was too far in and the ball bounced off him, crossed the line completely. It was a goal to put Argentina up 3-2, but then the Argentinian side made a stupid handball mistake. Okay, it wasn't really that stupid because it looked like on that play. Anyway, they handballed Mbappe, and so Mbappe got another shot at a penalty kick for the hat trick to tie France and Argentina, and he did so, blasting it in the back of the net. The keeper knew exactly where it was going, but even so, Mbappe was like, I'm going to just hit it so hard you can't block it. And that's what he did, scoring the game-tying goal to send it to penalty kicks. And man, that penalty kick shootout was such a shame. It was truly a shame that game was so good that it had to come down to basically a coin toss. It was all up to the keeper, basically. Which was truly sad. honestly. Lionel Messi playing his heart out, scoring 2 goals. Mbappe single-handedly scoring all 3 of the French goals. And they had to decide it basically on the keeper. And Argentina had dealt with plenty of penalty kicks up to that point already, and the keeper was making save after save, so it wasn't too surprising after Mbappe and Lionel Messi, who both got their chances and both scored. It wasn't too surprising when the keeper made a few crucial saves and secured Argentina the victory for the first time since 1986 or something. In what was a beautiful, unrivaled final match. And honestly, I don't know if either side really lost that game. Like, no one really won it, no one really lost it. It was just back and forth action. So beautiful. And Lionel Messi, 36 years old, he had done everything. He'd won so much. He was considered by many to be the GOAT. And he went out there and he won himself a World Cup title just to add that cherry on top of his career. I don't know if this is his last World Cup. Probably, because he'd be 40 by the next time the one comes around. Next one comes around in the USA, Mexico, and Canada. And you can't just help but feel happy for him. I mean, going out there and winning. You could tell he was excited. You could tell Argentina was excited. And France, well, at the very least, you won the last World Cup. And honestly, out there, you did not look like the better team. Like, outside of Mbappe, your team was not playing the greatest. But the fact that you were still in it is honestly worth a commemoration. And, dang. And that was just to start off the day. That was a start off Sunday. After that, it was all wild from there. And before that, it was more wild. But before I get on to that, I just want to say, I was not a French fan. I was not rooting for France, especially since they won the last World Cup. And Europe had won, I don't know how many World Cups, a European team, so I was rooting for Argentina. Just to break the streak, just because I like parity. But man, I'm not gonna lie, Mbappe won me over. Like, in soccer, it is a full team sport where if you do well, that's great, but you really have to rely on the rest of your team playing unbelievably well. Like, generally you can't do it on your own, but Mbappe carried that French team in the final. Like, whatever was thrown at him, he didn't shy away. Harry Kane shied away. Christian Pulisic shied away. Ronaldo couldn't get it done for Portugal. Lionel Messi struggled at times. No, he didn't. But Lionel Messi had a team behind him. I mean, you just generally don't see teams led by one player win the World Cup, it feels like. Now, I could be wrong about that. I'm not a huge soccer historian or football, however you want to call it. But Mbappe single-handedly led that French side to 3 goals, and he scored his penalty kick, so he did everything he could. He did not complain. He went out there, he scored, and he won me over. I'm like, this man was thrown everything. And he responded. Like, that is mad respect. Oh, this game felt like the Chiefs and Bills playoff game last year, where it was like whoever had the ball last was going to score. And it came down to basically a coin flip. Came down to penalty kicks. The Bills game came down to overtime. Beautiful game. Couldn't ask for a better World Cup final. Despite being taking place in Qatar, which absolutely botched everything, I guess. I don't know. It wasn't pretty. But good final. And that was just after. This was after the insane, bonkers game of yesterday between the Minnesota Vikings and Indianapolis Colts. The Colts went up 33-0 at halftime over the Minnesota Vikings. The game was pretty much over. It was like, dang, because the Vikings are like, 10-3. They're 10-3. And the Indianapolis Colts went out there and put up 33 on them with Jeff Saturday as head coach. They're putting up these monstrous point games, and you're like, how on earth are they doing this? But then something happened. Kirk Cousins happened. It was not a primetime game. It was a 1 o'clock game. So Kirk Cousins went into his super form, got all 7 Chaos Emeralds, and led the Vikings on touchdown drive, touchdown drive, touchdown drive, a few field goals here or there, and tied the game up at 33 on a screen pass to Dalvin Cook with 2 minutes left to send the game into overtime, which he would lead his team on to win with a 30-yard attempt from Carl Joseph to complete a 33-point comeback, which has never been seen in the NFL ever. That broke Frank Reich, former head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, record for largest comeback in NFL history, which was 32 points. Funnily enough, Frank Reich also owns the largest comeback in college history at 31 points, which I find hilarious. And I think I'm a bit wrong on the Vikings. I said they were fraudulent. I did not buy into Kevin O'Connell. I was like, I don't know, I didn't have much of an opinion on him. But he's come in and he's taken that Viking squad, which last year was losing 1-point game after 1-point game because of bad coaching from Mike Zimmer. He's got them winning 1-point game after 1-point game after 1-point game. 1-score game. It's unbelievable. They found ways to beat the Packers early, which I guess isn't too big a surprise. They beat Buffalo in that insane game, and now they top it off by coming back from 33 down. That team fights and fights hard. Like, it's the same thing with Mbappe. They could have just given up, gone into next week. But no, they fought and clawed, and they won the game. They're like, yeah, you know what? They had the mentality. That's what it was. They had the mentality. Some teams just have that mentality where it's like they never give up. They look perseverance, hardship right in the eye, and they slap it. They're like, okay, let's do it. They went out there and they scored and scored and scored. They fought with heart. They fought with soul. Utterly beautiful. But man, it is sad to see that it was Matt Ryan's team that lost that game. Like, oh, after 28-3 and now a 33-0. Oof. And honestly, I have to ask some questions about Matt Ryan. Like, you're in this situation before. He's been in this situation more than a few times. Are you not motivating your teammates around you? Is he shrinking when he should be easily winning? Is he slightly a choker? Just slightly. Like, this is fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And we saw this with Kyle Shanahan, who was a big part of that 28-3 loss. And then he blows the 10-point lead against Andy Reid in the Super Bowl. They're like, oh, yeah, Kyle Shanahan's got problems. He also blew a lead against the Rams, I think. Matt Ryan, like, this might be, unfortunately, his legacy. Like, you gotta ask some questions at some point. Like, he had his chance with the 2012 Atlanta Falcons, who were dominant 13-3 and lost to Jim Harbaugh's Niners in the NFC Championship. He had his chance in the Super Bowl against Tom Brady, 28-3, and the offense didn't score after that. Like, yes, the play calling was bad, but you gotta hit some open receivers. You gotta find a way to score, man. Gotta find a way to put the game away. It's like Andy Reid. Because despite that, if it weren't for that Super Bowl win, Andy Reid, I don't know, would still be seen as a choker. Blowing the 28-point lead to Andrew Luck. Blowing the big lead to Joe Burrow. If Matt Ryan blew that big lead against the Cowboys last year, he was on that team that blew the big lead to the Bears as well last year. Gotta ask some questions at some point. Like, oh, this might be on Matt Ryan, who's not motivating his teammates. He's not going out there and performing. He only threw for like 180 yards. Like, he wasn't even leading the offense, really. And this team could have easily won. Like, they should have won. But they didn't look like they thought they'd win. The Colts went out there and did not look like they think they'd win. I mean, the way they're playing, just allowing every touchdown. Like, they had one big interception, but then did nothing with that. They look scared out there. And that's on coaching, but it's also on quarterbacks a little bit, I feel like. You're the team leader. You set the tone. You gonna do anything about it? You got one field goal in the second half, and then you did nothing after that. And the defense gave you opportunities. That interception off Kirk Cousins late. I mean, the Vikings were hosed. They recovered a fumble off of Zach Moss. I don't remember who. But it wasn't called a touchdown, and then Vikings had to settle for a field goal or something. It should have been worse. They should not have had to go to overtime to lose that game. And this reflects poorly on Matt Ryan's career. But the games got even more wild as the New England Patriots and Las Vegas Raiders faced off. Had a 4:05 game, which was flexed from a Sunday night game. And the Raiders went up 17-3 at halftime. Then the Patriots got a pick six. And then scored a few field goals. Scored a touchdown through Ramondre Stevenson. Got the 2-point version to go up by 7. And then allowed the Raiders to score a touchdown with 30 seconds left on a deep bomb to Keelan Cole, who has made his fair share of great catches against New England, like in Jacksonville. And then Patriots had their chance with 2 timeouts, but they only had like 10 seconds left after a few bad plays. No timeouts, so they decided to run the ball just to send it to overtime. And this is where all heck broke loose. Patriots are tied 24-24. They run the ball with Ramondre Stevenson. He gets a big run all the way down and then he decides to lateral it. The game is tied. And then he hands it to Jacoby Myers, who decides, instead of just taking a knee or trying to run it himself, lateral it back to Mac Jones. Mac Jones, the man can barely run. He is not what I would call athletic. Got a big arm, but he's not athletic, and it goes directly into Chandler Jones' hands, and they take it and win the game. And first of all, that's just hilarious. I mean, the fact that play went so wrong on so many levels, like, you can't help but laugh at that. I mean, the Patriots have been a dynasty. They won 6 Super Bowls. Bad play here or there. It's just like, okay. He gave everyone else back something, so yeah, it was funny. But that play shouldn't have happened because, boy, the Patriots were hosed out of that touchdown. I'm not even a Patriots fan, really. I've liked them more since Brady left because I just don't like Tom Brady at all. On the field. I like him off the field, but I don't like him on the field. But man, that was not a touchdown from the Raiders. Like, when that play was happening last time, I'm like, was he in bounds? It was 1 foot and then 2 feet, supposedly. And then the replay comes up, and it looks like the guy's out of bounds. Like, he's got 1 foot down, the left toe lands out of bounds. By definition, that's not a catch. But for whatever reason, the refs took forever to review it. And once the announcer said, I don't know, it might not be enough to overturn. How is that not enough to overturn? There's clearly an angle where his toe's out of bounds. The refs called him in for whatever. The call stood. They basically said there wasn't enough to overturn, which is a bunch of crap. There was. They could have overturned that play, but they didn't. And so if that had happened, there should have never been the stupid lateral. And the Patriots would have won. Been 8-6. The Raiders would have been 5-9 and practically out of the playoffs. But now they're still alive with a few games left. And Josh McDaniels still has his job. And, you know, I'm getting a little suspicious of how bad these referee calls are. Because you had that. And then you have this game against the Commanders. Dang it, I said Commanders. Washington and the New York Giants. Where the Commanders were practically hosed because they had 1 touchdown negated because of an illegal formation. Because the receiver was not on the line of scrimmage. And there was no other eligible receiver inside of him. So apparently you have to be on the line of scrimmage, but he was pointing to the ref like, am I on the line? And the ref didn't give him anything. Weirdly. It's a bit strange. I'm not sure why they weren't given the touchdown. I mean, he wasn't told, yeah, you're not on the line. It's like the D4 play. Like, the ref can tell the guy he's not on the line. But they didn't. And then Taylor Heineke on 4th down throws a ball to Curtis Samuel in the end zone with the guy monkey pawing and clawing all over his back. And that's not called pass interference. If ball is incomplete, it's not called pass interference. It was clear on the replay. So this, and you know, the Lions game, not the Lions game, the Raiders game, and then the day before that, the Colts game, where they, for whatever reason, didn't call the Vikings a touchdown after the fumble recovery. It makes no sense. Also, they missed a face mask. They called a face mask on the Vikings at one point on a punt return, when it clearly wasn't. These refs have gotten worse ever since gambling was legalized in the NFL. Has anyone noticed that? Gambling is legalized and suddenly the refs are worse? Interesting. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. That might be a cause. I'm concerned about the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, as we near the NFL playoffs, teams generally start to emerge as Super Bowl contenders. And you got your usuals. You got your Buffalo, KC, Cincinnati. The Ravens when healthy. The NFC, you got the Eagles and the Vikings and this is weird. But every year you can generally tell when teams are good but don't have the firepower to make it all the way. And there's something there that's clearly evident that will always come back to bite them in the playoffs. And this year with Kansas City, they have those signs, those symptoms of a team that will potentially go out earlier than expected, or in the AFC Championship at the very least. And those signs are playing down to your competition. Kansas City Chiefs, as of late, have been playing down to their competition, and throughout the season have been a little sloppy when it comes to taking care of really decent, okay to bad teams. They allowed the Jaguars to score 17 on them in the second half. They allowed the Tennessee Titans with Malik Willis to go to overtime. They allowed the Raiders to make it a 1-point game. The Denver Broncos almost came back from 27 down. And this week, they went to overtime with the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans. That is just not good. Now, what are the signs of these teams that generally allow other teams to come back in, overlook their opponents? A, lack of motivation. B, not enough talent. Or C, just coaching, I don't know. But guys like Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, over the last 10 years, allowed opponents to just come into their buildings or go on the road, and they would generally play down. They generally win these games, but they'd play down these opponents every year, and they would the Steelers always lose in the playoffs to slightly, not even better teams on paper, but they would lose in the playoffs inexplicably when they should be winning. The Chiefs last few years have done that. They could have easily beaten Tampa, but they didn't. Could have beaten Cincinnati, but they didn't. Should have lost to Buffalo. That's another story. But the Chiefs, as mentioned, lost to all those teams. And so, just like the Steelers, if they go in and face a team that plays close and tough like Cincinnati or Buffalo or Miami, who's got loaded weapons. Who else is the Chargers? No, I don't trust the Chargers. Another team sneaking in, you never know. Could potentially. The Ravens, if Lamar gets back healthy, could be a tough fight for the Kansas City Chiefs. And could knock them out potentially. Another sign is bad defense. Like, your defense just can't close out games. That was the problem with Buffalo last year, is their defense could not close out games. What the Ravens' problem has been, they have a good defense, but they're not closing out games and allowing teams to come back in. Like the Steelers, that goes with the playing down to your opponents. KC's done that. Allowing the Broncos to score 21 unanswered and then make it a 6-point game at the end. The Broncos outscored the Chiefs' offense. The only problem was the Broncos threw a pick six. By all accounts, the Texans could have won that game. They allowed 29 points to the Raiders. Ew. They allowed Malik Willis to score 17 on them. This defense is not good. Joe Burrow beat him. Josh Allen beat him. If KC's going into the playoffs with a defense like that, it might get dicey. Because guess what? You're not going to be facing those teams, the Raiders, Broncos, or Texans. You're going to be facing Joe Burrow, who I might add you've lost 2-3 times in a row now. Buffalo, who you lost to, and Josh Allen. Another thing Super Bowl contenders generally have is a lot of weapons. Chiefs do not have a lot of weapons. I'm just going to say it right now. Yes, they have Patrick Mahomes, who is the best quarterback in the world right now. Yes, they have Travis Kelce, who's the best tight end in the world right now. Andy Reid's a great coach. But outside of that, they got a good O-line and a few decent running backs, but their best receiver is Juju Smith-Schuster, who's good. Nothing wrong with him, but he's not Tyreek Hill. The Dolphins have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Mike Gesicki, all those other weapons. The Bengals have Jamar Chase, they made the playoffs last year with Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, C.J. Uzomah, Joe Burrow, and a terrible O-line. The Rams won the Super Bowl because of Cooper Kupp, and they were playing really well with OBJ before he got hurt. Obviously, great coach. But they also had a good defense, which the Chiefs do not have. The Buccaneers, when they won the Super Bowl, had one of the most loaded rosters in the NFL. Gronk, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Leonard Fournette, whomever else, Tom Brady, Bruce Arians controlling that offense. An unbelievable defense is why they really won, which Chiefs do not have, I will say again. And this is not, just Chiefs' losses this year is what really concerns me, is because they faced those crap teams and won, obviously, like they should, but then they faced real tough teams, or even not tough teams like Indianapolis, and lose inexplicably. They faced Joe Burrow. Nope, couldn't win. Faced Josh Allen, lost. I could be wrong, but I don't see the Chiefs as big a threat as other people do. Yeah. The Denver Broncos, please don't let these last few games convince you Nathaniel Hackett's good. This will be a short video, but basically the Broncos beat the Cardinals last week and scored 24 points with Brett Rippon as quarterback. They scored 28 points last week, but the Broncos are out of the playoffs. And there are rumors, there are people like, maybe Nathaniel Hackett's coaching his way into sticking around next year. And please, no. Don't let the final few weeks of the season dictate where this team is going. My word of advice to Denver. Yes, you're playing better and Jerry Jeudy's playing well and whatnot. The offense finally looks good. However, this team did this in 2021. They did this in 2020, where they looked a lot better in the final few weeks for offense. Did this in 2019, where Drew Lock came in and looked a lot better after they missed the playoffs. This team has already missed the playoffs. They got nothing to fight for. They have nothing to lose. They can do whatever the heck they want. And look, they're scoring because they're not playing with fear. Don't let this game try and sway you from thinking Nathaniel Hackett might work. He had his chances to beat easy teams like the Colts, like the Raiders, like the stupid Seahawks, like the Chargers, and he's blown it. The O-line was completely trash. Receivers were dropping everything. They were the most penalized team in the NFL, and they've blown the most one-score games in the NFL, which is bad coaching. Ridiculously bad coaching. Mike Zimmer blew a lot of one-score games last year. Kevin O'Connell's come in and won most of those one-score games this year. He's made Russell Wilson look like original Geno Smith. It doesn't make any sense. Nathaniel Hackett is not good. He might be a good play caller as an offensive coordinator, but as a head coach, he's not good. Coaching is more than just winning the last few games. You gotta win the games you're supposed to win, which is what the Chiefs have not done. Just, the Broncos are out of the playoffs, they had nothing to lose. And not to mention that win against the Cardinals was against Vance Joseph. It was against a third-string quarterback. And another team that was basically out of the playoffs. Don't kid yourself. Hackett's not the answer. Just cut bait with him, hire a steady head coach, see where you go there. Team is rebuilding. They're not there yet. They might be soon, but the team is not there yet. This has been Roughing the Passer, a full episode. I thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, hit the like button to I'd really appreciate it. Subscribe if you like my content, and hit the bell to stay notified for future uploads. This has been Roughing the Passer. Sam Ruffing, I thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.